This was the scene at Charlie Kirk's funeral held yesterday. Apparently in the region of 100,000 people were either in or around the arena and in the arena. I mean, it was like nothing I've ever seen. And for a 31-year-old man to get that level of turnout for his funeral is absolutely mind-blowing. And it's ironic because I've seen this clip beforehand from someone who claimed his death would mean nothing.
The best part of this whole goddamn thing is that he is not martyr material, so his death will mean nothing. It will activate no one. It will impact few. It's just great.
The level of happiness on her face is disturbing, but the fact is, she was so wrong. She was wronger than the wrongest thing from wrong land, yeah? And I think Donald Trump himself made a point that kind of resonated with people as to why so many people felt impacted by the murder of Charlie Kirk.
It was an assault on our most sacred liberties and God-given rights. The gun was pointed at him, but the bullet was aimed at all of us. That bullet was aimed at every one of us. Indeed, Charlie was killed for expressing the very ideas that virtually everyone in this arena and most other places throughout our country deeply believed in. But the assassin failed in his quest because Charlie's message has not been silenced. It now is bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and it's not even close. And it's rare that such a thing happens, but Charlie is bigger today than he was. Think about it. Just 2 weeks ago, he's bigger today than he was 2 weeks ago.
That's not even up for debate. Before he died, I'd maybe seen a couple of clips of him. Now, I've made a whole video on him. I've seen so many clips all over social media of him. I mean, anything he said has just been amplified by a million. So ironically, the shooter, in trying to silence him, has just made his message 10,000 times bigger. And you've made people care about him even more because now people look at him like a martyr on that side, I guess. They look at him going, you gave your life for saying the things out loud that so many others think. That was his mistake. And whether or not what he said was the right or the wrong thing, you know, is another debate. But the fact is, a lot of people identified with him. And I can't lie, like when I started watching this funeral, I was hardly expecting to make a video on it. But the longer it went on, the more I felt things, the more I thought things. It was very unusual. It got me thinking, just like a lot of Charlie's videos did, to be fair. It got me thinking about legacy, because this is a man who was just so young. But clearly, whether you like him or not, he left a massive legacy. This was like a prince had died. In many ways, literally, because a lot of people seen him as the future president of America, and he was basically cut down before that came. And to have that many people mourning you at such a young age, it just shows what a legacy he left. And, you know, when men are in their 30s, they think about legacy a lot. They think about, what am I doing? What am I here for? What am I leaving behind? Clearly, he thought about that a lot. I think that's obvious from his videos. How many people, if they were killed at 31 years old, which is such a young age, would have that level of reaction? I mean, not many. In the history of the world, not many. Bear in mind, he wasn't born famous. This was a man who created everything from nothing, just from speaking his mind into a camera. Something we could all do. It's not like he had a talent where he was a great football player, a sportsman, or anything like that. It was his brain that did all of this. And even if I don't agree with every opinion he held, I can respect that, especially the older I get. The older I get, the more I actually respect people who speak their minds publicly, even if I completely disagree with everything they've got to say, because I know the level of shit that comes with that, being on camera a lot, and not just grief online. We're talking about a man who had bullets flying at him because of his opinions. You got to be a brave motherfucker to do that, especially when you're just walking straight into enemy territory, as he was regularly. And that is why he created this special thing that he did, because he would publicly have these debates. And obviously, look, even in death, he hasn't won everyone over. There was people protesting outside of his fucking funeral. Yeah, with the signs out. I mean, it's just fucking mad, isn't it? Like, who goes to protest a fucking funeral? Like, that is really weird.
I don't think he should have been shot, but I am glad he is dead.
Why?
Because he's a detriment to society.
How?
Oh, just like everything about him.
So specific. The blood dripping down on her signs. It should be quick. It should be televised. Rot in hell. Like, imagine just getting up in the morning, you know, you have your coffee, maybe you have some scrambled eggs, you think, right, let's get to work on that sign. What is your life? And that's the thing I find fascinating about people, is that we are so different, because I can't in a million years imagine being that person. Apparently, the same woman screamed at a pregnant woman who was headed in.
Oh my God, that was
Obviously, there's a lot of abortion chat around Charlie because of the views he held. And this same woman just screamed to a pregnant woman heading into the funeral, "I hope your baby dies." Another commentary guy was upset that they had a stadium funeral for Charlie.
This is what it currently looks like outside the State Farm Stadium in Arizona for the Charlie Kirk Memorial at 5 a.m. Behind me, you see the lines. This year alone, there have been 11 school massacres, and not a single one had a major memorial at a large sports stadium in America. There have been a total of 515 lives taken over the last 22 years in school massacres, and not one resulted in a memorial in a major sports stadium.
Why stop there? We should just have stadium funerals for everyone. Do I not deserve a stadium funeral? Why not? Maybe because I'm not Charlie fucking Kirk, you moron. Do you understand the concept of celebrity? The whole reason all these people gathered is because the man had millions of subscribers. He touched millions of people through his work. People are going to commemorate someone who they spent hours watching because they felt like they knew him through his content. It's not a knock on people who've been a victim of shooting that they didn't get a stadium funeral. This is the fucking logic you're dealing with, though. Fucking morons. One of the interesting things that went down was Donald Trump and Elon Musk reunited at Charlie Kirk's funeral. Elon posted this photograph saying, "For Charlie." And I think that means that this is a genuine thing, right? This isn't just a for the cameras opportunity, you know, let's pretend like everything's fine because we're at a funeral. And Elon spoke very powerfully about Charlie Kirk and why he died and his real reason that he believes he was killed.
Well, Charlie was someone who believed in dialogue, in open debate. He was a man of ideas. He spoke eloquently. He basically never even raised his voice. He was a man of peace. And now he's been murdered in cold blood.
Did you know him personally?
Yes, of course. We met many times.
How was he like?
I supported his organization. I supported Tony Park from quite early.
Very emotional, Elon. Very rare that we see him like this, by the way. Like, he clearly admired what Charlie stood for, because when you look at their principles, the fact that Elon bought X to turn it into this like free speech platform, clearly that was everything Charlie was striving for, was freedom of speech, and they shared a lot of the similar principles. And you can tell he admired Charlie in the way his lips quivering here.
Why was he killed?
He was killed because his words made a difference. Because he was showing people the light. And he was killed by the dark.
They were powerful words, in my opinion. Because the more I've mulled this over and the more I've watched Charlie Kirk, yeah, he's not right about everything, in my opinion, but I get the feeling from him that his spirit was a good one and that he was like, he meant well, even if he was misdirected, in my opinion, misguided, and maybe too staunch on some of his opinions, and he could have been a bit more understanding of other people's arguments instead of just trying to beat them, you know? I do think even on things like abortion, I think he actually, it wasn't that he was trying to hurt women out there's feelings necessarily. I think he really gave a fuck about the unborn children. That this is something he wrestled with a lot. And the point being is, I think he meant well, and I think that sometimes he was misunderstood. Obviously, I've not seen every video of him, so again, you've got to say this. There might be a video out there where I heavily disagree with him on stuff, and maybe it might change my opinion. But from the stuff I've seen, I think he meant well. Now, going back to the funeral of Charlie Kirk, there was a lot of speakers that day, but one of the main ones was Tucker Carlson. And Tucker told a story about Jesus that a lot of people seem to interpret that he was alluding to the potential that Charlie Kirk was killed by the same people as Jesus, or something along those lines.
Jesus shows up and he starts talking about the people in power, and he starts doing the worst thing that you can do, which is telling the truth about people, and they hate it. And they just go bonkers. They hate it. And they become obsessed with making him stop. This guy's got to stop talking. We've got to shut this guy up. And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about, what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us? We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I can just hear him say, I've got an idea. Why don't we just kill him? That'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem.
Imagine laughing like that They literally killed him. You're at his funeral. Like, why are you laughing? Like, this is mental. Some people have speculated that he is alluding to a connection between, the murder of Charlie Kirk and Israel. Again, who the fuck knows? I ain't got a clue. I think Charlie had been open about being pro-Israel at times. Then he was questioning certain things later. That's a whole nother video. The one thing I'll say about Tucker Carlson is that, much like Candace Owens, my respect for them both went out of the window when they interviewed Andrew Tate and showed that they didn't really give a shit about the truth or researching anything. They turned up totally unprepared. He ran rings around them, and then they fucked off with the Big View podcast where they didn't really give a shit other than getting views. So my belief in his credibility is damaged, right? So I'm going to leave that there. But I thought it was a weird moment. I'm just imagining, imagine you're his wife backstage watching Tucker, laughing out loud about the idea that someone, why don't we just kill him? You're like, my husband's dead, mate. What the fuck are you talking about? I know he wasn't talking about Charlie when he made that joke, but he was obviously drawing comparisons between Charlie and Jesus in that moment. Now, when Trump got up, he gave Charlie Kirk the Medal of Honor.
The nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It's the highest civilian honor. And we will do the ceremony at our beautiful White House in a very safe Washington, D.C., a place that Charlie truly revered. We stopped the crime in Washington, took 12 days. Now you can go to restaurants, you can walk down the middle of the street with your wife. You can have your wife walk alone down the middle of the street. She's going to be in good shape.
Sorry, what's this got to do with Charlie Kirk's funeral? What are we remembering about Charlie right now?
What a difference good management really makes. But I'm so proud of that Washington, D.C. It was one of the worst in the nation, in the world. And now it's considered a very safe city.
This funeral, it definitely became a bit of promo. Do you know what I mean? After a while. Maybe Charlie would have been for that. I don't know. But it bit weird. One thing Trump did get onto is the influencers and other people online celebrating the death of Charlie.
Over the last 11 days, we have heard stories of commentators, influencers, and others in our society who greeted his assassination with sick approval, excuses, or even jubilation. You've heard that. So have I. Couldn't believe it. Some of the very same people who spent the last 8 years trying to sit in moral judgment of anyone who disagreed with them about politics suddenly started cheering for a murder. Incredible. You know the names. They're major losers, by the way.
They are, though. This is the thing about Trump. I know he's fucking mad, isn't he? But the worst thing anyone can do to another human is kill them. And yet these same people have had the moral high ground for God knows how long, judging others for how they politically lean. And then when a guy gets murdered purely because he's a Republican, basically, and he's preaching certain traditional values that, not everyone agrees with, these people cheer, celebrate, and say, good, he deserved it.
I think that liberals need to wake up and finally realize that if they're not willing to do it, it will never come down. If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Donald Trump shouldn't have been president for the second term.
So it's Donald Trump being president that meant that Charlie Kirk had to die. Okay. Interesting. Those are the words of Destiny, who has said a lot of things. He said he's not going to condemn the shooting, and I don't even know why the fuck I'm talking about this geezer, but he's the worst one of a bad bunch, which it takes some doing, to be fair to him. And I don't actually know if anyone really supports. I'm sure some people support this guy, but I only ever see him people saying what a horrible piece of shit he is. Destiny tweeted, "This Charlie Kirk memorial is indistinguishable from a Nazi rally, and fuck anyone who wants to pretend it's not." I've never been to a Nazi rally. Maybe it was. Maybe that's what Nazi rallies are like. I wasn't around back then. Neither was he. So this is the Charlie Kirk funeral, right? Now let's go to the Nazi rallies.
Throughout 12 long years, the German people were regimented, willingly for the most part, into a machine which substituted for personal freedom the cult of mass obedience.
Yeah, he's got a point. Virtually identical. He's such a fucking idiot, isn't he? And do you know what it is, man? So much of people's behavior online can just be really chalked off to a bad upbringing. And if you brought a kid up who was so unlovable, is so just rotten to his fucking core, the way this kid is, you really fucked up. What did they do, bro? Did they torture you? Because something's not right. And the thing about Charlie's death is that so many people try to smear him as far right, these kind of characters, but not just those characters, but even the BBC.
Built a huge and devoted following for his far-right views and his eagerness to debate with opponents.
I know the BBC is the UK, and like even having a British flag or an English flag in your house anyway makes you a Nazi in the UK. Go work that one out. And the more I watch Charlie, the more I realise just how much his words have deliberately been taken out of context. For example, they often say he was against civil rights.
If you had the opportunity, you would get rid of the Civil Rights Act?
No, I think you should have a one-page bill that says that racial discrimination based on race is illegal and will not be tolerated in the United States of America. Most black Americans don't support is men and female sports. Would you agree?
I don't know. No.
Yeah, I know. No, for sure, right? Yeah. Believe it or not, the Civil Rights Act is now being used to keep men playing in women's sports. So the Civil Rights Act was used to help black America originally. Totally get that. But now the way it was written is that any claim of identification, so someone says, I'm a woman, therefore I can compete in your volleyball team, they come in with a civil rights claim. And so what we're saying is, no, it should be specified to racial, not gender, all that other stuff. And there were all these other provisions as well.
And yet they never give you that context when they say, Charlie Kirk was against civil rights. Of course they don't. Because they know that makes him sound like a racist, like a fascist, like he should be shot, like he should be killed. Funny old thing. And I get, like, in politics, you got to win by any means, but, like, the bar has just gotten so low where that means if I put my opponents in danger and I make out like they're the next Adolf Hitler, so fuck. I don't give a fuck if they get killed. And that's where we've ended up in this position, in my opinion. Another thing they deliberately took out of context with Charlie was his opinions on DEI, and they made it sound like he was racist because he had a problem with that situation.
If diversity happens naturally through meritocracy, great. If all of a sudden we have people that... Well, no, it's not. DEI is by force.
So let me explain that.
No.
Go ahead.
I got to interject. DEI is that we are going to forcibly make an institution more colorful. Right. We're going to forcibly make an institution more black. Where if all of a sudden, if half of Texas A&M was black because it was all on merit, praise God, that's an amazing thing. It doesn't matter. If all of a sudden, for example, if the NBA is 75% black because it's on merit, great. Terrific. If the NFL is half black because on merit, we don't want to force race. We want excellence and meritocracy over race in every possible circumstance.
I think that's crystal clear what he's saying there. And in the last video, a guy who he had on actually made some very good points about DEI. But I think Charlie being opposed to DEI does not make him in that explanation in any way racist. And yet people just flippantly call him a racist, a fascist, like all of these things with no proof. I've been looking. I haven't seen a single fucking clip of this guy. I can't find one where he even looks the least bit racist. If anything, he's very pro-helping black people. This is a clip from one of his debates where he takes on an actual racist.
But if you go back to the original founding fathers, they intended this to be a European nation for white men of good stock and character.
So, can you show me, let me answer the question. Can you show me where in the United States Constitution it says that?
It wasn't in the Constitution.
It wasn't in the Constitution because they didn't believe it.
The founding...
You, sir, they did not put it in the United States Constitution. Let me answer another question. Let me ask you another question since you support. Allow him to have the mic. Let me ask you another question,
founding
sir.
Fathers wrote many
what
other
does the
documents
phrase,
other than the United States Constitution, and they made it explicitly clear.
What does the phrase "e pluribus unum" mean? What does the phrase "e pluribus unum" mean?
Why is that relevant?
Because it was on every founding document and presidential seal from our founding, which means out of many, one. You, sir, and your ideology is not conservative. It is right-wing, identitarian. It has no place in the conservative movement, my friend. Get out of line. Get out of line.
Fucking love that. And this is a man who just blasted this guy as right-wing and not conservative, because there is a difference, believe it or not, despite what they say online. And I'm not saying I'm on any side, left or right. But the fact that they called this guy racist and he just smashed a racist in public like that, it's such an injustice that there are so many people saying this about him right now. Of course, you can disagree with his stances on abortion or even immigration or other things, right? But he wasn't a racist from everything I've seen. And now, a word from our sponsors. Some of you might have noticed that certain videos that you've thoroughly enjoyed watching for many years in the UK are no longer accessible. Yes, all those years of getting your favourites bookmarked have just gone to waste. All that research for nothing. The good news is there's a solution for that, which is a VPN, and the one I use, the best one, is Surfshark. All you gotta do is click the link in the description below, and you'll get 4 months for free off of your year-long subscription. And the reason we need to do this, lads, is the Online Safety Act has come in the UK, and the UK government is asking third-party identification companies to ask who you are in order to watch this great content. And all you've got to do on your VPN is say, you're not in the UK anymore, you're in America, or you're in Canada, and then you can have all the fun you want. And Surfshark also do a very good job in keeping your data private. They mask your IP address, so your sensitive information will not get leaked, and you will maintain your privacy. The exact opposite of what the UK government want. And I know we all like to watch this kind of content on many different devices, and you're in luck because with Surfshark, it works on pretty much everything. And it's so easy to use, just a click of a button, and off you go. So what are you waiting for? Get your 4 months extra on me for free. Just scan the QR code on screen now, or click the link in the description below. Go to surfshark.com/Geordie and get Surfshark now. And he was actually going back and forward with a black guy who was in the media who they didn't get on. They had opposing views, and he actually did a little video after the death of Charlie.
I've decided I'm going to do something. I'm going to share something personal that I wasn't sure I was going to share. But I think it's important. Charlie Kirk and I were not friends at all. In fact, the last week of his life, we were beefing hard, beefing online, beefing on air. But the day before he died, he did something that shocked me. He sent me a personal message calling for personal dialogue, wanted me to come on his show. He said we could be gentlemen together. He said we could deal with our disagreements agreeably. And in the past week and a half, just watching people talk about civil wars and censorship and all this stuff coming out of his death, I just thought it was important to let people know, don't put that on Charlie Kirk, because the last day of his life, he was reaching out to have not more censorship, more conversation, more dialogue with somebody who honestly was one of his adversaries, me. And I just want to share that with the world.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with this guy, Van Jones, apparently his name is. I've seen clips of him before, but I just thought that it was good of him to put that out there to show that, like, Charlie was the man with the olive branch. Fascism is silencing your opponent, and he was called that all the time, and yet he constantly would give his opponents, or the people who disagree with him, the opportunity to disagree with him. He allowed them a platform, his platform even. To call him a fascist, it's just insanity, in my opinion. And there's no basis of that. Now, when Trump came on stage, he actually addressed a little bit of this as well.
It was Charlie who first started organizing young black conservatives hungry for support and leadership. It was Charlie who stood up for persecuted Christians and Jews on college campuses.
Starting up for blacks and Jews. Just such a Nazi. Just the more I listen to this, the more I'm like, does the truth not matter anymore? And also, I wish I'd watched him more when he was alive, because as much as I don't agree with everything he said, he got you thinking. There's a hell of a lot of interesting content out there that he made. And one thing I do think about Charlie, the more I've watched him, I think his religion is something he took extremely seriously, and that him being honest, being truthful, being a good person was more important to him than a politician. You know, like a lot of these guys, you can imagine, behind closed doors, they can be bought and paid for, right? I think this guy, he genuinely sounds like he doesn't give a fuck about money, and that it was all about the message and about spreading what he thought was the right message. Even if he was wrong, we can debate that all day. He thought he was doing the right thing. I actually do believe that from the more I've watched of him. And I think that could have made it very problematic had he ever gotten in power, because it would have been impossible to corrupt them. Because his moral code, it was so staunch. Even Trump, in his speech, basically said he's a better man than I am.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Look at that. He's angry at me now.
I think that says a lot about who Charlie was, and also a bit about who Donald Trump is. And it's funny because people really criticize him for that, and they're going, this is the leader that's supposed to bring our country together, is it? I mean, the reality is they called Trump a fascist and a racist and a womanizer and a sexist and everything. They did exactly the same thing, and someone tried to blow his head off. The only difference between him and Charlie, aside from Charlie probably being a nicer guy and, you know, better morals, is they didn't miss Charlie. So I understand why Trump is not necessarily a gracious guy when it comes to competing with his opponents. That being said, I agree he probably could be better at bringing the country together. Fuck me. Charlie would have been way better at that than him. Now I want to get on to what Charlie's wife Erica had to say, because her speech was really powerful. I do think the fireworks were a mistake. It is a bit WWE. I get it, because on the one hand, they're trying to make it a celebration of his life. And let's be real, the people who did this event obviously ran the Trump campaign, right? Probably. But people are tweeting online about how are you going to come out like Bill Goldberg in the wrestling, like for your fella's funeral. I get it. It looks a bit weird. But nevertheless, what she had to say was pretty beautiful. And I don't think this is her fault, because I don't think she was like, can you make sure they've got the fireworks ready for when I come out? Because if not, I'm going to be pissed. I've got to admit, just seeing her like look up to the sky and say that she loves him, as a man in, like, I'm not that far away from Charlie's age, like, to imagine your missus going through that. 1 minute she's waving you off to work, the next minute she's speaking in front of 100,000 people, and by the way, millions watching around the world. Like, there was millions watching this, and now she's got to find the strength, just like a bit over a week later, to do you justice and to say what you meant to her, what you meant to all these people. Fucking hell. That's a lot. Now, this is what Charlie Kirk's wife had to say when she went to see his body after he was killed.
I also saw on his lips the faintest smile. And that told me something important. It revealed to me a great mercy from God in this tragedy. When I saw that, it told me Charlie didn't suffer. Even the doctor told me it was something so instant that even if Charlie had been shot in the operating room itself, nothing could have been done. There was no pain, there was no fear, no agony. One moment Charlie was doing what he loved, arguing and debating on campus, fighting for the gospel. In front of a big crowd, and then he blinked. He blinked and saw his Savior in paradise.
What a speaker. What a speaker she is. Charlie was a good speaker, but she's doing him justice. Yeah, bloody hell. I'm glad she can take something about the fact that it was immediate and that he was... And look, in the footage, it looked that way, for sure. He just immediately left the body and boom, it was gone. And I'm glad she has that to cling on to, because fuck me, that is the only way that this could be even worse. And the thing I'm taking away from when she's looking up and her eyes are welling up when she talks about how much he loved to do what he did, is she knew just how much that meant to him, and she knew how much happiness it gave him. And it's that pain of knowing that he'll never get to do that again. And that's something that she is just it's gonna take a long time for her to be okay with that.
After Charlie's assassination, we didn't see violence. We didn't see rioting. We didn't see revolution. Instead, we saw what my husband always prayed he would see in this country. We saw revival.
The one thing that's not deniable is that this religious quest that Charlie was on has resulted in more people hearing about Christianity and Jesus and all of that than ever in my lifetime. The millions and millions of people that watch this event, every speaker for 5 hours constantly talking about Jesus, what it meant to Charlie, the Lord and Savior, all of that stuff. In my life, Christianity it's been spoken about less and less and less with every year that's gone by. This is the most televised advert essentially for Christianity in my lifetime. So in that sense, he'd probably be very happy at the way it was conducted and how much Christianity was spoken about. And even as a non-religious person myself, although I do believe in God, it was fucking coming through the screen of like the faith, the belief that these people have. And it was very moving. And the point she makes about, you know, no one rioting and that this in America, it's become sort of part of the culture, right? Someone dies and you know, who's a popular figure or something happens and there's a major riot. The fact that everyone, to be fair to these guys, has pretty much conducted themselves with class, and it's been a lot more of a positive reaction in terms of faith and all of that. I think that they can really hold their head high there, especially when so many people on the other side are celebrating the death of a guy who was an innocent man.
And someone once asked me how Charlie and how we kept our marriage so strong when he was busy traveling. And our little secret, it was love notes. Every Saturday, Charlie wrote one for me, and he never missed a Saturday. And in every single one of them, he'd tell me what his highlight was for the week, how grateful he was for me and our babies. And always at the end, he would always end it with asking the most beautiful question. He'd always end it by asking, please let me know how I can better serve you as a husband.
Wow. That's all I can say. Like, the guy seems like a stand-up dude. Clearly, he didn't just say stuff, like he lived what he said. And to just write notes like that, like, they're just little things, right? But us men, it's just not in our nature. The fact that he took the time to do that, I think that says a lot about his character. And that this woman is going to have a lot of beautiful little memories to hold on to. And personally, I know that in order to get through death, those are the things that help you, is all those lovely little memories. And that's going to be important for her. Now, one thing she did that really shocked me in this service was she mentioned forgiving the killer, which I was not expecting.
He wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man, I forgive him.
This man took her whole life away. The husband, the father of her children. She wanted to spend the next probably 50 years she could have lived with this guy. And he took it all away in 1 second. And she sat there a week later saying that she forgives him. The strength just to even say those words. I mean, how much can she mean them? Is this something that she's just saying because she needs to get through this? Is she saying it because it's the Christian way? Is she just hoping that she can forgive this person? Who knows? Only she knows. But you've got to commend it, because I wouldn't. No fucking way. Not when I replayed it in my head, the idea of him getting up on that rooftop, and not only that, conspiring with all these other people who apparently are involved as well. God knows how dark this gets. And him pulling that trigger and taking away the love of her life. She has every right to say, I hope you burn in fucking hell. And the fact that she's saying, I'm not even going to push for the death penalty, I'm just going to let the government do what they want to do. I think the level of class that she's held together here is remarkable. And to say she's doing her husband proud, it's an understatement. It's actually unbelievable. And for anyone to look at these people and to just do them down, I mean, I don't know how you can really. Do you know? People are funny though, aren't they? And Charlie actually spoke about the death penalty in one of his debates.
So I guess it's also an insult to the victim, isn't it? saying that your life doesn't matter so much that your murderer can keep on living, but you yourself aren't living. It actually devalues the value of the victim, or the victims, actually, in a lot of times. And you have a hat that says, "Make America Holy Again."
Yes.
God repeated in all 5 books of the Torah, you take a life, your life will be taken.
I guess that says what Charlie's opinion would have been. And interestingly, he actually put out a tweet not that long ago in April saying assassination culture is spreading on the left. There's countless videos of him saying how in danger he was. And it's such a sad ending to what could have been a very productive and brilliant life that he would have had. And don't get me wrong, he did a lot in such a short space of time. I mean, it's insane the levels he reached at 31 years old. It's unbelievable that he had all these people and all these millions of people watching his funeral like that. And I guess my hope at the end of this video is just that his wife copes okay, because where the funeral's coming, there's something to do for people. When someone dies in any circumstance, let alone as one as hard as this, it gives you a reason to, all right, we've got to get ready, and I've got to do my speech and afterwards, what happens is everyone goes back to their normal life. Except you. You're the one whose life is forever changed. Your everyday life is never ever going to be the same again. She's the one who's now got the kids and it's just her. She's the one who's now going to be running his company. Her life has changed so dramatically and others has not changed as much. And that's the weirdness. And I remember describing it as like, it feels like when that happens to you, that you kind of step foot outside and the whole world's underwater. Like everything's changed but everyone else is acting like this is totally normal. And for you, it's absolutely mental. And I just hope that all of the videos that she's got of Charlie, all of the footage and because she can just watch that and take comfort in, like, she can still see him every single day in some way, shape or form, because a lot of people don't have that. She's going to need a lot of strength. And she seems it. Like, that's one thing I will give her. Like, that speech, if every man had a woman who spoke about them like that, there'd be a lot of happy men in the world. Like, she really held him down. And they do make a great case for marriage. They were very pro-marriage, and they seem to have such a beautiful partnership, and I think it's so sad that it was brought to an end by a selfish little psychopath. It's just a fucked up world we're living in, isn't it? It really is. Well, that's all I've got time for today. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.